In the Gun, episode 123. It's time for a Cincinnati recap as the Mountaineers take care of business in their final home game of the regular season. What's going on, everybody? You are in the Gun. I'm Wesley Euler with the best teammates in the business. We got the signal caller, Jed Drenning, the beer truck himself, Owen Schmidt. Big week for Big O, Jed, as we've got some playoff action. George Washington, Greenbrier West, the other GW, making their way to what is now the semifinals, correct? I believe.
Yes. Final
Four, yes, for Big O and the boys. They've got a big rematch on Friday. It's holiday week as well, too, here with Thanksgiving. So his schedule has gotten changed with practice and all their preparation and the holiday and everything. So Big O basically tied up through the evenings through this week. So we'll see if we can get him to pop in here at some point throughout the course of these things. But you might just have Jed and I for the show this week as Big O is getting ready for a big game on Friday night. And, of course, Jed, we do not want to be the reason to mess up any of the GW mojo down there, baby.
No, not at all. You have, as we mentioned, a couple times this week, we're going to be talking about this. You have Greenbrier West heading to James Monroe on one side of the single A semifinal bracket. On the other side, right here in Tucker County, the Mountain Lions, A.J. Rapp and company, head coach A.J. Rapp, are hosting Williamstown. And what many people are calling, if Tucker County pulls the upset is the higher seed. You know how that works sometimes, Western high school football. It might, in fact, be the biggest win in the history of Tucker County High School. I mean, people have been asking me, hey, what was your guys' biggest win when you had all those playoff runs? I mean, my sophomore, junior, and senior year, we were in the playoffs with some pretty big wins against Bridgeport, a couple unbeaten teams in Chapmanville, and some others, Independence. But I tell you what, this would have to be right up there because Williamstown is one heck of a football team in the single A class in West Virginia. So two great battles, two good matchups, a matchup of the two unbeatens, and so let's see where this goes. But yeah, Wes, I understand why Owen's pretty busy this week. I understand.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Now, Jed, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you before. Obviously about my Doddridge County ties
Yep.
in my family. Well, speaking of Williamstown, I haven't told you this, have I?
No.
The athletic director at Williamstown High School,
Okay.
my oldest cousin.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So listen, there's a Euler connection everywhere, baby. Now her last name is Bryant. She comes from the Kaufman side, which is my mom's side, so she's not a Euler, but you get what I'm saying with the Euler.
I got what
with
you're
Wes
saying.
Euler, there's always a connection somewhere, baby. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm torn in that one. What do I do? I mean, I got people on both sides.
Well, yeah, we have representation in 3 out of the final 4. We just don't know nobody from James Monroe, right? So
That's right. We
yeah,
ain't got no love. We ain't
Greenbrier,
got no love for them
Williamstown, and
anyways.
Tucker, we got them covered. Yeah, that's right.
We got them all covered. Of course, covering us as always here on ITG, our friends at Bet Online, where the game starts. Thank you to Bet Online for being a presenting sponsor of this episode. It is Thanksgiving week. It's a big one here. I've been making a lot of jokes about how I always feel like the backyard brawl should still be played this week, but I'm fired up for Thanksgiving on Thursday, a little bit of downtime. I know that's not the case for everybody, but it's weird. Like during football season, Jed, I get every Thanksgiving and every Black Friday off, and it's like the only 2 day from the end of July when training camp starts until the end of February where the NFL Combine is. It's like the only time I get 2 days off in a row this entire stretch of like 7 months, 8 months here. So I'm going to enjoy it. Hopefully, if you're maybe you're listening to this podcast as you're traveling along to go see some family or go see some friends or travel for Thanksgiving. Safe travels to everybody out there, and we hope you have yourself a heck of a holiday here as we kick off the holiday season. Jed, it was a nice stress-free win at home for the Mountaineers. Second straight home game that WVU taking care of business comfortably. Of course, a couple weeks ago against BYU and making that one pretty non-competitive under the lights at Mountaineer Field. And another very convincing victory, 42-21 over our old friends, but new friends in Cincinnati in their first season in the Big 12. That pushes WVU to 3-1 against the Big 12 newcomers this season, of course, just a Hail Mary down in Houston from completing the clean sweep. But Jed, I think this is maybe the place to start, right? When you rush for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, a historic performance. And that's saying a lot because we have had some great quarterback running back tandems in program history without a doubt, but a historic performance from Garrett Green and the freshman Jaheim White.
There's absolutely no doubt about that. And let me start with this. He made me jealous with your sitting at home on Black Friday story because it seems like I'm flying just
I was
about
gonna
every
say
Black
you're
Friday.
you're the opposite of
And
me.
so I've gone back and I've checked. This will be the 5th year in a row that we've wrapped the regular season up on the road. That's weird.
Really?
Every year since Neil's been here.
That's
The last
bizarre.
time we
Yeah, I
wrapped the
guess you're
regular
right. I
season
haven't.
up at home was the Kyler Murray Will Greer game. That was the
Don't
last time in
remind me.
2018. Very strange. But so it seems like every Thanksgiving weekend we're flying somewhere. Texas, Oklahoma. It seemed like in the early days of the Big 12, every other Thanksgiving we were in
Yeah.
West Des Moines, Iowa, getting ready to go to Ames.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's a great place to start, Wes. The production that you've seen, and more recently, I'd even say the production that you have consistently seen out of West Virginia on the ground, that has to be discussed here. I mean, Neil told me coming off the field, I asked him, I said, hey, you didn't do this against just anybody. You did it against one of the better rush defenses in the Big 12. You did it against the Cincinnati rush defense that features probably a couple guys they're going to be playing on Sundays. And his response, he said, we didn't make the cut as an offensive line last week for the Joe Moore Award. They weren't happy. This group was ticked off. And there's, for those who don't understand that award, it's unique in the sense that it's a group award. It's one of the only college postseason awards that isn't to an individual. It's to a group, a unit. And Phil Steele talks about this quite often. He's on the committee that helps decide that. He was trying to champion West Virginia. He was upset that we didn't make the final cut, but he says, "Look, it's a different kind of award," and he's right in that it's an entire group of kids that are striving towards something. And so to not make the cut, yeah, I think they were a little sore about that, and they came out and took it out on Cincinnati. And I think they played one of their more complete games of football. And I'm going to start with this, Wes. I put this on Twitter, or once again on X, whatever we're calling it these days. But West Virginia offensive line as a unit. Now, bear in mind, this the other night against Cincinnati was a unit that was without Doug Nestor, a starter at right tackle. So once again, Nick Malone had to step in. He's played a lot of football for us. Next man up. And then early in the game, Brandon Yates was lost at right guard. So here comes Jaquay Hubbard. So really down 2 starters. West Virginia put this type of effort together to run for those 424 yards. So here's where we stand so far. This offensive line has paved the way for the 5th ranked rushing offense in the country, 233 yards a game. The most rushing yards per game by a West Virginia offense since Owen Schmidt's senior year, 2007.
Ooh.
The highest yards per carry average of 5.1 yards by a WVU offense since 2016. And the fewest sacks allowed were tied for the fewest allowed by a Power 5 team in conference play all year. We've allowed 3 sacks in conference play this year. That unit didn't make the cut for the Joe Moore. So whoever does win that award better be pretty damn good.
Better be pretty good.
They better be pretty daggone good. They better be pretty salty. So that's what I would say. And then you really see this offense starting to click over the course of really, I'd say the last month, 5 games even. We're doing some things offensively, mixing in a more explosive, pushing the football downfield pass game with what you've seen in the ground game. And we kind of got the sense, and Neil has talked about this multiple times, that coming out of the Duquesne game, we thought, based on where Garrett was, I mean, there was a certain approach that Neil and the staff took to the Penn State game with Garrett starting the season in that environment against that defense. Talk about NFL guys against a defense populated with a list of NFL guys. So you wanted to make sure you game plan in such a way as to give him some confidence one way or the other coming out of the football game. So he did enough things to build on that. Come against Duquesne, after the weather delay, he comes out. He's playing lights out football, has a little bit of a swagger, throwing some deep balls, really making some plays for us. Coming into the Pitt game, This is the offense that we were about to unleash on Pat Narduzzi. This deep ball combination of the run game, combination of letting Garrett read it and run it, and then a couple plays into the game, Garrett's lost, and Nico has to be inserted. It only took 25% of the reps that week, so we didn't get to offensively explode on Pitt like we thought we could.
Right.
So we kind of had to make our way through and just dominate them defensively and throttle them, shut them down, not let them do anything defensively, and embarrass their offense instead. So that's what we did. So we found a way to win that game, but it wasn't until later that we started to find our groove offensively. Now, to what extent did we find our groove? I put this on Twitter as well. Something jumped out at me, and that was when I'm looking through the game book, there are certain things that my eye goes toward. And when I saw 9.8 yards per play, I was like, whoa, that
That's
doesn't
insane.
happen often.
That's insane.
That does not happen often. So let me go back and revisit some of our top performances offensively from a yards per play standpoint since we've been in the Big 12. Do you know what number 3 is? Yards per
All right.
play since we
Yards
joined Big
per
12
play.
play
Are you talking? Sorry, did you say per game or per season?
for a game.
Okay.
Number 3 all
That
time
Kyler Murray
since we
game.
joined
That
the Big
Kyler Murray
12.
game.
No, that was not. That's not a
Okay.
bad guess, but that was not.
Baylor 2012 first conference game.
That's exactly right. Baylor 2012 was number 3. We averaged 9.2 yards per game. Guess what number 2 was?
Okay, so if the Baylor's off the board, and I know it's not the Oklahoma battle in 2018. Oh man. Was it
I'll give you a hint.
Texas
Tavon.
Tech 27? Oh, Oklahoma 2012.
At 9.5 yards per play. That game comes in at number 2. So number 1, or number 3, I should say, is the game we all remember, the 70-63 insanity, offensive insanity. Number 2 was the unstoppable Tavon, despite the fact we still lost that game 50-49 to Landry Jones. Number 1 was Saturday night against Cincinnati,
Wow.
9.8. That lends some perspective to the type of offensive burst that we had for the balance of 60 minutes. So great job by the entire crew. Great job starting up front with that offensive line and what they were able to do, banged up with some different guys in the mix once again. But let's talk about some of the things that we've managed to do from an offensive standpoint. Okay, here's rushing totals by game, and then I'll give you the leader in that game. 146 yards. I'm not going to name the opponent just so we can race through them. CJ led with 81, 304 yards. These are rushing totals. Jaheim led with 110, 151. CJ led with 102, 157. Nico led with 72, 201. Garrett with 80, 155. CJ with 66. Now we start humming. You ready? 226. Garrett with 117 was the leader. 286. CJ with 121. 336. Jaheim with 146. 176. CJ was 79. Up to Cincinnati, 424 yards. And Jaheim, of course, led the way with 204, the first true freshman to rush for 200 plus yards among Mountaineer backs since Dustin Garrison did so in 2011. But it just remarkable. And then when you look at what Garrett has done from a dual threat standpoint, what he's doing, not just pushing the football vertical, but also with his legs, sometimes on script, many times off script. Total yards and then touchdowns accounted for. Garrett has started and played not really 9 complete games. We're not going to count the first 3 plays of the Pitt game. Total yards, rushing, passing combined, and touchdowns combined. 233 yards, 1 touchdown. 273 yards, 4 touchdowns. 222, 2 touchdowns. 438 yards, 4 touchdowns. 366 yards, 2 touchdowns. 211 with 3 scores. 228 with 2 scores. 178 with 2 scores. And then he combined to rush and pass for 364 yards against Cincinnati and 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 279 yards per game, and he's accounted for 24 touchdowns with a game and a bowl to go. So on the offensive side, it looks like we're cresting at the right point. The Oklahoma game notwithstanding, we played obviously terrible football in all 3 phases at Oklahoma. But I think this offense is coming together in the way that they envisioned Chad Scott and Neil Brown in the offseason at the appropriate time down the stretch. Defensively, I think some things are coming together as well. We played much better defense, obviously, at home, giving up about 20 points a game than we have on the road. We'll talk later in the week about some of the concerns I might have going into Waco to face a struggling Baylor team. That's one of them. We haven't played nearly as solid defense on the road as we have at home. And you saw some guys really step up that we needed to step up. I mean, I talked in the pregame show. We need a big game out of Jared Bartlett because four-man pressures were one of the ways that you could really get at Cincinnati's Emory Jones. And Jared didn't have a sack, but Jordan Leslie talked about the fact that's his most complete football game since he got here to West Virginia. And when you watch the tape, I don't want to say it jumps out, but he's right. I mean, there was a consistent element to what Jared Bartlett was doing: play in, play out, setting the edge, fitting the run, sometimes playing two gaps, sometimes folding over to keep what, Jordan talked in the presser about a 4-yard gain that really nobody's going to pay much attention to. Well, guess what? I put this on social media. When you watch what could have happened with that 4-yard gain, the blocking that was unfolding and lining up for Cincinnati, that could have been a splash play for Cincinnati, but Jared snuffed it out. So you had some unsung heroes on the defensive side of the football. Beanie Bishop, of course, we talked it many times. He's in a race for Brian King's school record of 21 pass breakups. He now sits at 20. He had 2 taken off the board. One with a DPI, which I'm pretty sure, I need to check the numbers, was his first defensive pass interference of the year. He's had a defensive holding, but he's been targeted, I think, the third most in the country, and he's been very productive against those targets. So to hold up with one DPI with all those targets, pretty incredible. And then he had the other one that initially was ruled an incompletion. Upon review, they overturned it and called it a completion. That took away another PBU. Otherwise, he would have had the school record in that game with 3 instead of 1. But the defense did what it needed to do to help put Cincinnati away, help hold them at bay while the offense separated. And then it wasn't until the fourth quarter we started substituting that some things went awry. And you'd like to see more production out of those 2s and 3s, but it's going to happen. Again, we've talked about we have depth issues. We're dinged up. We're banged up. It's going to happen. But before we go any further, because I want to get some thoughts from you, Wes, before we get Big Daddy in here. But let me jump real quick on my soapbox. And once again, this is a conversation about metrics. There are many sites out there, and more power to them. I'm glad they do it, that supply all these different metrics and wonderful numbers and analytics that we can, tap into and enjoy. But be very careful if you're just using those metrics without thoroughly vetting it with film study. And I don't just mean getting the highlights from the film to say, oh, yeah, that guy had 3 good plays. Yeah, that stands up to what his number said. No. That's not what I'm talking about. So here's a couple examples. Zach Frazier, when you watch the tape against what he was facing in Dante Corleone, he had a reach advantage against Dante Corleone, and boy, did he use it. Dante Corleone could not get into his chest plate. And Zach did a great job of holding him at bay for the better part of the day. Not just that, but a movement and zone schemes, applying pressure, sometimes even on the second level when he climbed. But Neil said he graded out at 95%, and that was consistent with what I saw studying the balance of the game. He had 43 production points according to the staff. He had 10 great blocks. That's a category the staff checks, and he had 2 knockdowns. One of the analytics sites graded Zach in the same game his run grade was 61.4, which was 4th among our linemen. His pass pro grade was 52.4, which was 5th among our linemen. So please, if you're using the metrics, if you're using the analytics, here's what you do. You take it, and you do get a sense of who's watching the tape and who's evaluating it for these metric sites. Once you get 2/3 of the way through the tape, yeah, that's pretty much on point with what I'm saying. Don't pay so much attention to the 10 best plays they make. Don't pay so much attention to the 10 worst plays they make. If they play 60 plays, the gold is going to be found in the 40 in the middle, not the ones that show up for one reason or another on the highlights on SportsCenter, not the ones that just make you say, oh, well, he graded high. So there's 3 great plays I saw on SportsCenter. So, yeah, that makes it. No, the 40 in the middle that aren't among his best and aren't among his worst. That's where you can get a true sense of how that eval is going. Case in point again, we'll close with this. Jared Bartlett, we talked about what an incredibly consistent game he had and how he contributed snap after snap. One of the analytics sites graded him at 63.3 overall defensively, 12th among West Virginia defenders. So please, if you're going to use metrics and analytics sites, evaluate the tape. And when I say evaluate the tape and vet it, I don't mean the best plays or the worst plays. Scrap those out and look at the ones in the middle that will truly tell you how the evaluation is. A lot of times you can get 2/3 of the way through the game, halfway through the game, you're like, yeah, it must be a former coach that's grading this tape because it's right on point with what I'm seeing. Other times you're thinking that's not a former coach. I don't know who's doing this, but whoa. So that would be my public service announcement before we go any further, Wes.
No, I think you're absolutely right. That's something that I kind of wholeheartedly agree with. I think, listen, I think if you're somebody who completely relies on analytics and numbers and things like that, you're missing the plot. I think if you're somebody who completely ignores them, you're missing the plot. I think the true answer is somewhere in the middle, and the balance is right. Using the numbers to back up or confirm what you think your eyes are seeing, and vice versa. Right? Using your eyes to back up or confirm or deny or disagree with you don't want confirmation what the numbers are. Right?
Yeah, exactly. In other words, sometimes you're pursuing a narrative. Boy, I hope that grade's accurate. Let me look for a couple plays to corroborate it to prove that they are. Yeah, but it's kind of fun, Wes, that when you're watching the tape, when you do get the sense that whoever's evaluating for the metric sites, whichever metric site it might be, I use different ones. You do get the sense, wow, they're onto something. Okay, good. I can trust this. I can have faith in it. When you reach that point in the game, it's a pretty cool feeling. So there's a lot of quality people that are doing this as a side hustle for some of these analytics sites, but also some of them I think are just looking for a quick buck, and I'm not so sure what goes into that. But
correct. And I do always get a kick out of like fans love it. Like, let's use Pro Football Focus for an example, right? Fans love it when their guys rated highly. Oh, just see, he got an 88 grade. And then the next week when their guy isn't ranked where they thought, oh, well, Pro Football Focus is a bunch of malarkey anyways. I do always love that balance. Right. Like, everybody who's listened to this podcast for more than 5 minutes knows I work in the NFL, right? I work for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's hilarious. Like, it'll be like, oh, Pro Football Focus sucks. They never rate TJ Watt good. And then the next week, it'll be like, hey, did you see what they gave Jaylen Warren this week? They gave Jaylen Warren a 92. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I always love Pro Football Focus.
Well, you're right. I'm with you, Wes. I'm a guy who likes information. I don't think too much information is a bad thing. It's kind of the eye of the beholder.
The more data points you can have, right?
Yeah.
But Jed, we do have Big Daddy waiting. So real quick, I love how this offense has come together. I love how they have, Oklahoma aside, made a habit lately of starting so fast, right? At one point there, Jed, towards the end of the first quarter, we had 8 first downs. Cincinnati had none. I mean, you look at the final number, 31 first downs for the Mountaineers on offense, 6 for 11, over 50% on third down efficiency, 2 for 2, once again, efficient on fourth downs. I love how we've gotten aggressive and confident in that department this season. And Jed, once again, you win the turnover battle, right? You have 1 interception and no giveaways. They have no takeaways. That's something we've been keeping an eye on as well too.
We did throw a pick.
Did we?
I noticed in the.
Sorry, you're right. I'm thinking the other way around. We lost the turnover battle.
I did see a box score that had it the way you said it. So there was something with that. I don't know what that was. You're right. There was something. But
no, you're right. I got myself discombobulated.
It's out there somewhere because I have seen a box score saying.
I'm doing the confusing my Saturdays and my Sundays thing.
That's what you're doing.
Yes. The Steelers, despite an affront to football on Sunday in Cleveland, they did win the turnover battle against the Browns.
Guess who leads the nation with an 8.24 yards per carry rush average? The nation.
White.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
Jaheim White, baby.
Also, one more for you. We punted the ball 1 time in that game. 1 time.
It was a touchback. I know that because I went up to Ollie and I said, I bet me and you are the only 2 in the stadium that know that's your first touchback of the year, don't we? And he said, well, my coaches do too. He wasn't happy. He said,
good on you, mate, but my coaches know that one too.
Yeah. He was acutely aware that was his first touchback of the season.
Jed, it's weird because sometimes, right, you see, your team won by 21 points, but it maybe wasn't necessarily that comfortable. This is one of those games. I mean, it was every bit. I mean, it was 42-7 at one point. This was a start to finish from the opening kickoff to the final musket shot. a complete 60-minute performance from the Mountaineers. On defense, certainly. On offense, where it really seems like they're humming. And what do we always say? Two things that travel are a run game and a defense. Let's take those on the road to Baylor and keep this thing going for the final week of the regular season. We got to get to a break. When we come back, it's Big Daddy. We'll talk to him about the emotions of senior day there at Mountaineer Field. Don Nealon getting immortalized as well, too, with his name being added there in the terrace in the end zone. So we'll discuss all those things with Big Daddy when we come back on the other side. You are in the gun.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less. In Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
For more West Virginia Mountaineer football content, be sure to follow us on Twitter at In the Gun Podcast.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Let's go, Mountaineer fans. You're tuned in to In the Gun with Wes, the Runaway Beer Truck, and the Signal Caller.
Back in the gun here. It's time to put a bow on this Cincinnati recap with our buddy, Big Daddy Sean Mariner, our handsome, tubby man of gold. And Sean, you are a big guy, right? But yes. You know what? I think it was Owen Schmidt who said this many moons ago on this podcast. Big guys are often the most emotional guys.
You're looking at him.
And so I know senior day is always one full of emotions, but man, a lot of big time Mountaineers, a lot of guys with West Virginia ties as well too. It's always special, but I think when you've had a season like this, right, the last couple of years have been difficult. These guys have been able to get that thing turned around. We're having a lot of fun again. You finish that off going 5-1 at home this season. Yeah. I was telling you guys, I was at a wedding. I hardly ever make exceptions, but one of my best friends from high school got married on Saturday, so I did have to miss the game to go to the wedding. But man, I wish I was there for that, because that was just a special day all around.
It was awesome. I mean, senior day is always really good. Pre-game wasn't as emotional as it's been in the past, but Neil had talked about trying to curb some of that emotion because you still have a game to play and how difficult it is. But post-game, whenever we win, I always scamper down there as fast as I can so I can help out with whatever's necessary. And the guys are coming in, and, Frazier doesn't really show much emotion, but he's wearing a little something. Nestor comes in, and, it's his last time here. So Zach and Wyatt are with him, and they're going around, and it was just Thornton comes in, Jalen comes in, and he's smiling, but there's a little emotion behind it because they just got to do country roads. A lot of the seniors came in late and were late to the party because they're out there trying to soak it up one last time. And then I came back down after the press conferences to do one last sweep before I went out. Locker room is empty, completely empty, except for Doug Nestor just sitting in his locker. And I go, yeah, buddy, he's soaking it up a little bit. And he thought I was chirping at him. So he had some kind words for me. And I turned around and go, no, I'm serious. Like, are you absorbing it? And he just looked at me and gave me like a little nod. And I GTFO so he could have his moment without, a fat moron in there. Like, hey, are you sad? This is sad, right? It's weird too, though. Like the end of the game, right? My mind's everywhere. I've got to run down, help with post game, all that. we launch Country Roads, and I'm high-fiving and knuckling Bill and his spotter Sean and Chris O and Lucas, and Chris O just goes, "Hey, hell of a season, man. Thanks a lot." And I was just like, yeah, thanks, guys. And as I'm walking down, I was like, we're done with home game. Like, I'm thinking about Baylor next week, and I still have a game to go to. That was our last home game for the year, and it didn't even sink in until this morning. And I was like, "Oh man, like we
won't be back there till August 31st.
August,
well,
like,
spring game, but
spring game. But like
Speaking
that
of
was
Doug
a downer.
Doug Nestor came out again. It's always different on senior day. I didn't even run out with the team. I kind of came to the edge of the end zone and let everything unfold because it's so elongated. And so then when the rest of the team comes out, of course, the seniors run out to around midfield and meet their families.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going out there to wait on the captains as the officials approach. And the thing that stood out to me, Doug Nestor's family was out there. His parents were out there. His dad embraced him with a hug that I can only describe. He was hugging him like he was in the second grade.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking, I'm watching this 6'6", 300+ pound mountain of a man, and his dad is hugging him like a second grader. And I just thought, and then when everything started to calm down after the chaos in the post-game locker room, Big Daddy, I walked out with Doug. And you talk about red eye, because he was going to meet his parents at the corner of the end zone. Zach was down there to see Ray and his mom. And when I walked out with Doug, he and I were just chatting it up. And I said, dude, I remember I was talking to your coach. And I remember when I first got news that we were getting you from Tech. Because when we signed Wyatt, I talked to their high school coach, and he said, we're working on getting you another one. So I kind of got that sense. And then it was made official. And I said, I still remember where I was, how excited I was. And it really meant so much to him. So he went down in the end zone, spent some more time with his family, and then back in when you saw him.
Yeah.
But it's Neil's talked about it. Look, some high schools are starting to move this to earlier in the season because it is such an emotionally charged experience that it's difficult to go from that with all these memories flashing through your mind. I mean, I remember when I had to do it on senior day. It's very difficult to reharness your focus so quickly and recalibrate. And the next thing you know, 4 minutes later, there's a whistle blown and a ball being kicked off. And here comes everybody trying to smack you around again. It's difficult to do that. So I wouldn't mind seeing them move it, because it really is special for those guys. And it's special for those on the team, and even special for those us like you and I around the team.
And I know that sounds weird, like, oh, but you play football, it's what you do. But I mean, you obviously, Jed, did it, and Wes, you and I have been around long enough. Like, the pregame ritual is sacrosanct. Like, the guys do what they do every pregame for a reason, to get mentally ready for this and that. So for them to go and have to then get out of football mode,
that routine,
be in emotional mode because, oh my God, this is it. And then get right back into football mode. Like you said, you had 4 minutes later to get it's a weird, almost like bipolar swing where you've got to try to recalibrate yourself. And I know it sounds simple, but it can be weird. So then when they just hit the gates running, it was like, okay, we're doing all right here. This will work.
That's what I mean. It could be weird. It could be tough sometimes, but not when you're up 42-7 in the fourth quarter.
Like, okay, from your ultimate comfort zone, your family. Nothing, you let your guard down around your family like nothing else.
Yeah.
So you go from that, the warm embrace of your parents, the most comfortable, safest, most secure place
in the
world.
And now here's a 6'8", 400-pound nose guard.
It's tough. It's tough.
You know, throughout the season, obviously, it's been so great to be around some of these guys, some that are going to leave and everything. And in the locker room, I'm obviously all excited. I go over and I see Jaheim, and I'm just giving him the look like, holy hell, seeing some of the other guys. But you are who you are, right? And no matter where I go in that locker room, Coach Moore sees me and goes, come take a picture. And I got to take a picture of all the offensive
linemen. Were you the one who snapped that famous picture?
I was the one that took and I'm like, yep, I can go wherever I want. They're always going to think, oh, lineman, bring his tubby ass back over here and take a picture for me, buddy. Like, yep, you got it, guys. Here we go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. No,
I want to go with it real quick. I want your thoughts in the locker room with what you saw out of Garrett, because let's jump in the seniors real quick. I didn't tell this story. In the post game, when we win the game, the protocol is normally Mike Montoro makes his way down in the final couple minutes of the game, and he and I have to coordinate. All right, in addition to me interviewing Neil on the field, I'm also going to interview a player. Who's it going to be? So we chatted up real quick, and we decided, all right, well, let's do Garrett. That makes the most sense, right? So we were going to do Garrett on the field. So TV wanted Garrett and Neil at the same time. I'm like, fair enough. Tony will hold. He'll throw down to me as soon as TV's done, and I'll do both. So that's the way it was working. And I went ahead and I interviewed Neil. And as I interviewed Neil, I looked around and Garrett was behind me, and then he's gone. And so we wrapped things up with Neil, and I told him to go enjoy the final minute or so of the song. And I looked around, and Montoro and Fergale told me, they said, hey, Garrett said, hey, it's either the radio interview or to sing the song with my teammates and the fans. I'm going to sing the song. And I'm like, well, I don't blame him, to be honest with you. That's the kind of guy we're talking about. He don't want the media. He don't want the spotlight. He don't want the interviews. He wants to sing the song with his teammates. That's exactly the kind of guy who's leading this team.
Was it like the scene in Slapshot, right, where the Hanson brothers, they're listening to the national anthem, the referee comes over and he goes, I don't want any funny business from you guys. I'll throw you out of here.
I'm listening to the song.
I'm listening to the song.
Did you see him in the locker room, Big Daddy?
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Because what was happening, I was right in the middle of the sea of bodies as Neil, and you saw Neil do his thing, his little signature act like he's all calm. Hey, great job today, guys. Nice win over the University of Cincinnati. And then he just loses it and screams and jumps into the crowd. Well, I was behind Jaquay because I was standing near Garrett because I had to get Garrett for post game to do the interview with Tony and Dwight. So I'm in the middle of the players. Well, Jaquay was right in front of me, and when Neil did that thing, I thought, oh no, I'm going to get crushed because Jaquay jumped 2 feet off the ground and almost landed on me. But that place was fired up. It was really cool.
And again, little things, all the seniors getting to do the fight song at the end, and it's just like this is what you work for. When you win on senior night, that's exactly the moments that they're going to be able to carry with them forever.
100%. And I think it's pretty cool. Jed and I were talking about how some of the things, some of the numbers, finals, a little skewed at the end there, right? Because by the fourth quarter, you had called the dogs off and put some other guys in, but that's got to be the best for those guys on. You get to spend the final minutes of the game just kind of looking around and soaking it all in and enjoying and just basking in that comfortable victory. Yeah. I agree with you guys. Like, I don't hate the idea of moving a senior day away from the last game of the year, but at the same time, when it plays out like it did on Saturday, there's not much better in athletic. I don't care if it's high school sports or collegiate athletics. There's not much better than an afternoon like that or an evening like that. For your senior day and to go out in that regard. And gentlemen, I mean, speaking of emotion, speaking of a perfect Saturday and all these different things, Don Nealon, end of the first quarter, just, man, the reception, like I thought it was so cool. Jed had talked about this a little bit, how this last game of the season, this kind of time period, right? Whether it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving or the Saturday after Thanksgiving, you're always a little skeptical about the crowd because the students are on Thanksgiving break. It's the start of hunting season. It's cold out. People are traveling for the holidays. Like, it's just a time of year where there's so much going on. Yeah. But, man, that crowd was ready from the jump. That crowd was ready for Don Nealon. That crowd stayed to be there for the end of that senior day and one last country roads until we get to August and September and a new season and all that. I love just seeing the representation, the outpouring of love there for Don Nealon. And for anybody who hasn't seen it, our guy Chris O that we reference all the time, putting together
that video,
hell of a video.
Yeah.
And we give Ren Baker credit for a lot of things. I think we're all Ren Baker stans here on this podcast. But man, for him to get that done with Don Nealon, because we all know, listen, I mean, Father Time's undefeated. Don Nealon he's getting a little bit older. For him to still be able, though, to be there, to bask in that moment, to really enjoy it with his family and some of his former players. I mean, you combine the senior day, you throw in the big comfortable victory against a familiar old friend there. I mean, that was perfectly scripted for Saturday.
Jake Prady, friend of the pod, Jake Prady, works with the equipment staff, but is also a member of the MAC, helped organize that whole thing for Friday night with Don and all those former players coming back at the new place over at the Coliseum. And anytime the players come back, Prady is 25, 24. He's a young guy, but he knows what like a historic psycho I am about WVU. So every time they have something, he's like, Shawnee, just come over. And I was like, no, like let those guys have their night and everything. And then I'm just scrolling through Twitter Friday night, having the most FOMO of my life. Like, my God, everybody was there. And I could have been walking around like a second grader, Jed, just smiling up at people and handing them pieces of paper and praying they signed it. Like, The turnout was incredible. And then 2 things from the presentation with Dawn on Saturday. So obviously they let everybody get out there. And like you said, Wes, Dawn is getting up there in age. And when you look at him, you're like, oh, he looks so much older. He does have a little trouble getting around and everything. But talk to him for 3 seconds, and that's Dandy Dawn from 1988.
He's still
the
sharp,
man, he's still got the fastball. It's incredible.
Yep.
So they get everybody out there, and we start the video and start the presentation. And I was busting Danny Nealon's balls today because I was cutting the melt, right? I'm laying down highlights so I can put together our melt of melt. And every clip I see, Danny's just behind him, just soaking it in, bouncing back and forth, so excited. And then the other side of it is when they drop the tarp or whatever it was to show his name, right? Obviously a huge moment. And some of the folks in the suites were able to help our facilities guys do it. One of which is one of the heads of WVU Medicine, Darren, who's on every trip with us. And he is just
up there
pumping.
Wow.
He's just pumping in the end zone the entire time after he drops the tarp. So I know, Jed, keep your ears open, because when we get on that plane Friday, Darren is going to be crushing Danny. Like, Danny, dude, I got to drop the tarp for your dad. He's just going to be blowing it up. So just be ready.
You know what I remember most about the on-field part of that? And I thought you were going to mention this. I was down there like an idiot with my phone, trying to stay out of everybody's way. So I'm 6 feet in front. And Haas was a couple people down from his father-in-law, Don Nealon. And Haas had one of the grandkids.
Yeah,
and he was holding him up. And that kid was just having the time of his life. And I thought, this might be the most perfect part of the most perfect ceremony that I've ever seen take part in this field. That kid didn't even know what was going on, was oblivious to everything, but he was in the arms of granddad, and he was just loving every second of it. And there's his great granddad, and I'm like, nothing represented Don Nealon better than that part of what was taking place there. I thought that was just absolutely awesome. And the cheer that when the tarp did come down, it was special. And I came off the field, guys. Everybody was moved. Like Ren came by me and said something, talking about how cool that was. We were all just moved. Jeff Castile. Jeff had 3 words for me. Pretty blanking cool. He just looked at me. And if you know Jeff Castile, that's like him getting the Gettysburg Address,
pretty stinking cool, right? Stinking. That's what the word was.
We're all old soft dads on this podcast. Like, how incredible of a moment is that with your fit? Like, that's upper echelon stuff. It's and what I'd love too is, right, we're always worried about timing. TV timeouts are only so long. We have got to fit in so much stuff. We thought we had plenty of time with that. The video wasn't that long. Bill timed his readout. We thought we're going to have a minute to play. And then the ovation is so loud and so long. The TV crew's off the field. The game's back on. TV is on. When TV comes back, it's supposed to be play. Get right back into it. Even the officials were just watching everybody leave the field. They gave us another 15, 20 seconds because they were just like, I'm not going to be the guy to be like, get the hell off of here. We got a football game. They were just like, take your time. We'll get to it.
And to your point, Wes, that moment late in the game of a blowout, the let's go chant started. And I'll say this, it would have been neat anyway, but right on the heels of our rival up north having, it's always hard to tell because even when they're winning, it kind of looks like it did the other night. But the fact that they're not winning, Pitt can't draw fans for anything. And the most hilarious part to me is their fans acting.
Oh no!
Wait, what'd you say? What'd you say? Meanwhile,
hold on, Jed. Hold on. Hold on. You just froze there for a second. You got to say that again.
Taylor County got you.
Okay,
Taylor County got you.
On you. My internet, Pitt's hexing my internet connection. But I was saying Pitt can't draw fans anyway. But the best part about it is we're all making fun of that embarrassment they put out with 17 people at Acrisure Stadium Thursday night against Boston College. And they're all trying to claim, well, that's because we're 2-8. Otherwise, wait a minute, I've seen your crowds when you're winning the ACC. I don't see much difference. You can't draw unless you're playing Penn State, Notre Dame, or West Virginia. That's just the truth of it. Meanwhile, as Big Daddy touched on, we had the holy trinity of reasons to not have a crowd. Students out of town, the dorm shut down on Friday. That's always an issue that weekend. Hunting season, get ready to start. Everybody's at deer camp. We live in West Virginia, after all, in much colder weather than we thought. It was cold on that field. I mean, that sky cover dropped that temperature a couple degrees. It got cold. So 3 for 3 with the excuses to not be there. And I'm not saying it was a sellout, but what I'm saying is it was a robust crowd that stayed, endured, and got loud late in a blowout game. And that was just really cool. I thought that was a really neat moment when that chant started for no real reason in the fourth quarter of a blowout game.
And Wes, one more thing with that senior day, it popped into my head earlier. You know, we did the old basketball substitution that our fans caught on to too. We are on that last drive. We get a first down. We sub out Zach Frazier, let him walk off the field one more time, right? Fans recognize it, start cheering. Then they call a couple of timeouts. So when Justin Johnson gets that last first down, Neil subs in, go. We're doing victory formation. Doug Nestor, get in there. Zach Frazier, get in there. Like, let's send them in. And now they have that moment forever. His only snap of the game. You got that forever.
Only snap of the game was victory formation.
Yeah. Your last play at Mountaineer Field as a senior is victory formation.
Yep. Can't beat it. And again, that's why, like, again, I know these senior day things. Sean, you made a great point in how all athletes, but I think particularly football players, are so regimented in how they prepare for games. It's a physical, violent game. You got to get your mind in a right place to get ready to go out there and perform like that for 3.5 hours on any given Saturday. But like I said, when it all comes together, when it all goes perfectly, you get those magic moments like you did. And you couldn't have scripted it much better or any better, I think, than what we saw there.
Well, guys,
and it was awesome. Like that emotion, that energy, and everything was palpable through the broadcast as well too. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When I'm sitting at the bar in Cleveland at 2:30, right, on Saturday, and the broadcast starts, I'm like, I don't want to say worried, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh man, like I hope this crowd looks good on TV. I hope there's energy there, all this stuff. And after the first kickoff, they do that first kind of wide shot. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, brother. Lower bowl's completely lower bowl's completely full, upper bowl's 70% full. All right, let's rock it. Cincinnati doesn't stand a chance today. And then, Sean, I was laughing. I said this to Jed earlier. I was like, the end of the first quarter, I looked up at one point. We had 8 first downs. They had none. Like we were just rolling.
It was a tough seed.
It was a lot of fun. And you know what? It's always good to have, we talk about getting Cincinnati back, not a rival, right, but a familiar foe. And there's some history there, and it's a border state and all these different things. And man, it really felt like old times. And by old times, I mean us kicking the crap out of Cincinnati, because that's what's happened most of the times. It's like on our beat the crap out of list. Number 1 is Rutgers, but Cincinnati's not far behind as number 2.
You posted it earlier, and I said something to him after the game. Garrett's first touchdown, Nick Malone had a nice inside seal block. I was like, oh, way to go, Nick. Well done, buddy. And then you posted that, and I've gone back and watched it. And Jaquay on that he pulls, unreal, finding his guy. But Traylon Davis, sweet baby Jesus, laying big number 9 down. I haven't seen him yet.
That guy.
But just like, my God. And then the other side.
Outside backer. As he just came in so high. I'm like, what are you doing? And Traylon's like,
reach, and it was all over after that.
Yeah.
And then as the game went on, I legitimately did feel a little bad for the guy, because there was a play late in the game where he actually threw his hands up. But number 10 for Cincinnati on the defensive side, Garrett shook him for 2 touchdowns. They were picking on him in the pass game, and old boy did not have a good game. And near the end, I'm just like, oh, that poor guy. This is going to be a tough day for that guy. I do feel kind of bad that this is what he's had to go through today.
Tell you what, the 75-yard touchdown, I broke this down on Twitter with the game film, but the 75-yard touchdown was a sail flat route. It's kind of an air raid staple, right? Well, we had that jet motion we've been using. They reacted to it. They rolled their coverage. We were running to the wide side. It's a long developing route by a running back. Normally that's a slot running that sail route. It's kind of a mini version of a post corner, a flag route. Well, guess who was running it? Jaheim, next to Garrett, was running it from the backfield, which takes a little longer to develop. So you had a high-low concept created by Jaheim exploding out of the backfield to take the top and run the sail. And then the underneath portion of it, you're stressing that flat player to the wide side, was the jet motion sweep by Gallagher. He becomes the swing man. Well, Garrett recognized the ID the flat player, and he's like, okay, I think that he bit on that just long enough that I can sneak that in behind him with enough touch. I mean, we like to indict Garrett for having no touch on the RPO throws because he's thrown a couple like Daryl Talley, knocking guys over. But I'm telling you, he has touch in his tool bag, in his arsenal. And you saw it really on display on that play because they had a free runner come off the edge defensively. So we were outnumbered to that side. So the free runner, the blitzer, was going to light Garrett up. And Garrett had a choice to make. He's like, okay, I'm going to stand tall and take this hit, but I'm going to trade it for an opportunity to buy Jaheim just an extra time to float that thing with nice touch, drop it in the bucket. So he had to throw it sooner than he wanted to. And as soon as he did, he got crushed, and he got crushed high. Go back and watch the film, guys. He hit that thing, got hit high, and flew back and took a whale of a shot, arched it over the defender right into that small pocket. Jaheim hits the extra gear, catches it on the run. And then, Big Daddy, did you notice who the only guy on the sidelines or in the stadium who nearly caught Jaheim? Chad Scott.
As always.
Chad
who
Scott
else
was in a full speed.
Who else could it ever be?
He was running a 4.5 down our sideline.
The headset flies off. The play call sheets flying everywhere.
When I see something like that, guys, I could talk about it for 20 minutes. It's just, to me, that's time capsule worthy, thing of beauty.
Yeah.
Perfect execution. It's just an explosive athlete catching a perfect pass from a quarterback who stood tall, traded that blow for the throw. That was just a thing of beauty. And how could you not like to play for Chad Scott? I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
He's the best, man. He's the best. Jed, that's a good way to put it, actually. I think a lot of Saturday, was time capsule stuff. And it makes you feel really good. It gets you jacked up. It gets you fired up, puts a smile on your face heading into Thanksgiving week here. That's one of my weird football fan quirks. Like, you never want to lose heading into Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
Because you still got practice. You still got business as usual. You got travel or whatever. Like, you don't want to head into the holiday week with a loss. So going with a big, comfortable victory and senior day and all those things is just absolutely fantastic. It was a perfect Saturday, like I said, in a lot of ways.
Yes, you did.
I meant John Talley. I think everybody knows that, but yeah, for some reason I realized John Talley was notorious. Of course, this is way before Wes's time. Big Daddy, you might remember, he was notorious. He had a cannon of an arm, and he was not at all afraid to use it. And that meant if you were 8 feet from him, or 80 feet from him, or 80 yards from him, he was going to knock you over with it.
It worked both ways, though, Jed, because Daryl Talley did, in fact, knock people over quite often.
That's true.
So it could still,
That's true.
It could still work.
We can repurpose that one. Yeah. Thank you to JR and our friends at Toothman Ford for presenting this episode of In the Gun. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. They're doing great things for our NIL and WVU athletes. Make sure you're supporting those who support the Mountaineers and support this podcast. All right, before we go, it is Thanksgiving week. Best day of the year. My favorite holiday. I know Sean's got some love for Thanksgiving too. So this is maybe putting you a little bit on the spot here, but I need your boldest Thanksgiving take.
Ooh. See,
I can give you mine if you need a second, but I feel like you got this ready.
The quick one for me, and it's not even that much of a hot take. The Mariners and the family that I married into, the Hickses, nobody has ever touched anything cranberry. Get it out of here. Get it out of here.
Ever, okay.
Adios.
Not even straight from the can, right?
Adios, muchachos. I don't need the ridges.
We are kindred spirits, me and you, when it comes to food. Because I
might know yours.
Can I guess? Go for it.
Mac and cheese.
Yeah. Now, see, is that a bold take? But yeah, you got to have mac and cheese. Is that a bold take? I know that's controversial.
See, I don't think it's a southern thing. It's not a staple for us, but this is never turned away.
Well, we don't do it. We've never done it, but yeah.
My wife Morgan, her grandmother makes mac and cheese that, oh my god, this stuff could stop wars. It's so good. And I'm with Sean. I'm not a big cranberry anything guy. I'm just not. I live in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania, but I'm not a big cranberry guy. I got two for you. One is that green bean casserole is the most essential side dish on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
You got to get the fresh green beans. I do mine on the smoker. I do it in a cast iron on the smoker. Oh, boys.
Of course you do.
And the second is, if you're one of these people who likes to do the cool hipster thing of, oh, turkey's not actually that good, just admit that you suck at cooking.
Yeah.
Because if you do turkey right, if you deep fry it or you smoke it or you do it right, it's fantastic.
We bought our house. We had Thanksgiving the year after we bought our house. We had it here for the first time ever. and your fat buddy dominated turkey. And I never want to have it here ever again because I hit it so hard.
You set the standard so high.
It's never going to live up to it ever again, regardless of what I do. So
Sean
Vicky Mariner, huge homemade noodles gal, and they were incredible. I mean, thumbs up, we get it.
We love Vicky.
And then my great uncle, my Pap's twin, had a homemade yeast roll recipe that like is the Mariner family secret. Like one person gets it. When that person passes, one person in their family gets it. Nobody in between.
That's the good stuff. That's how you know. That's the good stuff. Yeah, Sean.
You guys used. Well, this is a trick we tried for the first time last year because my oldest in college saw it on YouTube. It turned out all right.
Surprised it wasn't
mayonnaise to base the bird because it's oil and eggs. It was great. It was perfect brown. It was.
I don't hate it, Jed. I'm an OG butter guy, but I don't hate it. There's
mayo hater in the building right here.
Mayo hater or Miracle Whip hater?
All of the above. Listen, this is gonna get into my weird food quirks despite being fat. And I hate ketchup. I hate condiments. I hate ketchup. What's ketchup? Vinegar and tomatoes with some sugar. You know what I eat every day? Vinegar, tomato, sugar. I hate mayonnaise. What's mayonnaise? Eggs and oil. Eat eggs and oil every day.
You don't like condiments.
So wait, what condiments do you like?
I'm a big condiment
sauce,
guy.
but it has to be very specific. Like, and I know here's where everybody goes, barbecue sauce is just ketchup with other stuff. I'm aware, but I'm able to disassociate enough that as long as it, like Sweet Baby Ray's, is not just ketchup with something else in it. That is a barbecue sauce of its own creation.
I am a big gold. I'm a big gold barbecue sauce guy.
Mustard.
I'm a big condiment guy. Either way, I mean, everybody that knows me knows I'm all about the condiments.
Cheeseburgers, plain ranch.
Honey.
Ranch counts.
Okay, honey
We're
mustard.
Gonna take the elite this year, guys. We're gonna do the
get out of here.
Out in
Any
the driveway.
mustard period.
We're gonna deep fry the game bird. The game bird. We're going turkey and a game bird. I got a smaller game bird. I've never done it.
Jed, I've been told make sure you put it in frozen, completely frozen when you put it into the deep fryer, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So it explodes everywhere?
In 2020, so I got a smoker in 2020, okay? During the pandemic, nothing to do, losing my mind. So like any, pushing 30 male, I went out and bought a smoker. And it was like one of those like, okay, Wesley, you do a small turkey on the smoker and we'll still do one in the oven. And because we don't want you to ruin Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ever since then, my family, it's like, like I have to do the turkey on the smoker or else I'd be kicked out of the family. So,
Wes, are the girls starting to like put together their menu for you? Like, are they like, Daddy, this is what's gonna happen?
Olivia, our youngest is still just 6 months old today, actually. But
she'll get some gobble in her.
The oldest Olivia is very bossy when it comes to the food now. And you'll love this, Sean. I texted you. My oldest Olivia is super into Monsters Inc. right now. Like we are watching, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite movies. I love Monsters Inc. And we have been watching like a few like 15 20 minutes before bed every night, nothing crazy, then read a book and go to bed type thing. And we got her like Danimals yogurts the other day that have Mike Wazowski and Sully on the outside, and she is obsessed. Like she comes ripping down into the kitchen every morning and busts open the fridge and wants, give me my Mike Wazowski. She's getting the foodie tendencies for sure.
Disney World, awesome. Monsters Inc. Laugh Factory. If any of you have been and gone, the lovely show that took over for Stitch's Great Escape and the creepy alien one before, you go in. It's a comedy show where they interact with the crowd and everything. They pick members of the crowd to be certain characters. Any idea who might have been chosen to be Sully for the only show that I've ever been there on? So every time they did a joke about Sully or something,
they have
cameras, so they would just cut to me, and there's my big fat face up on the screen in front of the entire arena. Like, hey guys,
fantastic.
And Dee's the same way. Every single day, Declan is, I'm having this. That. Like, yep, you're my son. Go get it.
I love it. Well, everybody, enjoy the Thanksgiving. Let's have a great Thanksgiving. Let's beat the crap out of Baylor on Saturday, end this season on a high note.
We got to get 30 seconds from Big Daddy because we won't see him again till after.
Yeah.
Thoughts for dining on Friday night in
I
Texas.
sent the email out yesterday because we had women's basketball, so I had some time to kill. Pignetti's. I'm not sure the pronunciation, but Italian in Temple, Texas, were A+. Bird Creek Brewing
Italian in
Company.
Texas. Interesting.
Yes. So we're flying into Killeen, staying in Temple, and then flying out of Waco. But Temple's got a couple good brew pubs. That Italian place looks molto bene. They've got a steakhouse there, but it's like $80 for a steak, and your fat buddy ain't an $80 a steak guy. So,
You gone to a Temple game yet? We went and saw Temple 7 or 8 years ago. It was after Lake Seastrunk because that's his high school.
yeah.
But we went and watched it. They weren't very good, so that's why they apologized for only having like 23,000 people there.
Nice.
They said,
yeah.
"Look, we're only 4-4. What do you expect?"
Sorry,
But,
guys.
me and Dwight and Tony caught them.
Pitt would kill for that crowd.
You're not kidding.
4 Pitt games.
Yeah, that's 4 games worth.
Wait,
That's a good way to. That's a good way to get out of here.
Just one.
Perfect.
Oh, fireworks!
They ruined my weekly ritual. I couldn't listen to a Narduzzi's post-game press conference because
Well,
they
Jed,
won.
they do have this. They do it. Well, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. They had to get 3 wins on the season. I mean, let them. They had to finally beat a second FBS team. All right. I mean,
There was a guy posting those pictures. He's been to all 130 plus FBS stadiums. He's the guy who was. I think I sent you the same tweet.
Like college
This guy goes
stadium
around the
tour or
country.
whatever. Yeah.
Okay, one of our projects in the off season needs to be to get him on as a guest, if for no other reason than to discuss his Thursday night at Acrisure Stadium experience as one of the 26 people who were there. Because otherwise, the only reason they had 26 people instead of 29 is because they're not very good this year.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll close down. Listen, it's Thanksgiving week, so it should be backyard brawl week.
Yeah.
We had to get some shots in there. A final thank you to our friends at Fortis for root performance and financial certainty guaranteed. Visit fortis.us.com. This has been a lot of fun. We'll be back the rest of the week, obviously Wednesday with our pick'em. We've got the Baylor preview and of course Phil Steele still to come. So get your fixins on ITG here for Thanksgiving week. For Big Daddy Sean Mariner and the signal caller Jed Drenning, the one thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. You've been In the Gun.